All right. Hey guys, Courtney Sykes here from Southeastern Aesthetics Institute. I've got a lot of good information to share with you. So, where all this comes from is I teach full time in the classroom Monday through Friday from 9 until whenever. And that's what I love to do. But another thing that we do at Southeastern Aesthetics is we help our students with placement. Part of what we do is we are an accredited institution and we have accredited programs and we do reporting on that. So it is called CPL, completion, licensure, and placement. And it's one of my favorite things because it really is a good benchmark for our graduates, but also over the years, it's turned into some consulting and other things for business owners. And I gather a lot of information and a lot of data. And I love sharing that, especially with businesses that I've had over the years, and just the best practices to put into place in order to make sure that you guys, as the employers, obtain the best employees possible. So we can help with that. We are involved in that very heavily on a daily basis. It's part of what we do. And it's a free service for you all as employers. And we are happy to help you guys with that because that's part of our benchmarks we have to meet. But today we're going to talk about pairing smart people with smart positions, recruiting for your beauty business or medical aesthetics practice. So you're going to hear some real stories. And these are things that have happened over the past couple of weeks that I can bring into play that are real issues that are happening out there and things that we can do to resolve them and solve them. And whether or not you are a beauty business owner in the spa setting or whether you're an owner from the medical aesthetic setting, I'm going to teach you the best ways to compensate people legally and effectively and psychologically speaking. We want to make sure that people are happy to be working in our companies. How can we make sure that happens? We're going to talk about that. So, the very first thing we're going to discuss is recruiting estheticians and how this looks in your practice. So, we're going to get into some real numbers. I think that's why a lot of people enjoy these talks specifically. And I actually brought in some slides from some of my previous presentations that I've done. And so you'll see that coming up. So we're going to just talk about it first and then we'll talk numbers because I want to prove what I'm saying is true. So the first question is, are you ready to hire? I think that that is a great question. You can see the second question right behind that is, do you have the capital investment set aside? A lot of business owners think that the next right step would be to hire employees. Let's say that you're a small business owner and you've been doing the services yourself as a solo practitioner for many years or for a period of time, and you're thinking now's the time to bring in someone else so I can take a day or two off and I'm actually still bringing in income, right? And the way I'm going to preface this today is I am a very big pro advocate for W 2 employees. Okay. Number one, you as a business owner are going to make more money that way. Number two, if you are not doing W 2 employees and you are trying to 1099 people, that is not applicable in this setting, in the salon and spa setting, or in the medical spa setting. Not at all. You as the employer have to pay and match their withholdings for tax purposes. Okay. So that is another thing. And I do have a lecture recorded on that. But make sure you do understand that you're going to make more money, but you're going to have to, invest on the front end. So we're going to talk numbers on that. But the capital investment set aside. One thing I want to share first and foremost is before you even get to this thought process of recruiting estheticians, what do you have on the back end in place already? So let's talk about that. Here's the things you need to have to make sure you're a good business for people to come and work for. Number one, you have to really have your marketing game strong. How are you recruiting clients? Are you bringing in enough clients to where this makes sense for an employee to come in and work alongside you or to work for you? I mean, some of you are investors and you're just getting into it from the business ownership standpoint. You have to have practitioners doing the work, right? But do you have the marketing capabilities to uphold the volume, right? Then we're going to say the other term is going to be just more of a business concept that's unique. Okay. So marketing number one, and then unique business concept. What is unique about your business? What have you done and put into place to make things easy for clients? Do you have online booking options that are easy? Have you set up a phenomenal customer care team to call people, to answer questions, to answer voicemails, to always be there with a friendly, smiling voice behind the phone? What have you set up to where clients are comfortable coming to see you, right? And then the third and final thing is the most important thing, which is financial business sense. You have got to have some good business acumen in order to look at your finances and say, and I've got my little cat that's hopped up here, so sorry, to look at your finances and saying, do I have what it takes to understand how to invest properly, how to put money back in savings, how to locate banks with low interest rates, how to build my business credit, how to do these things where you can put money aside to ultimately do things like bonus payouts and annual wage increases, which I'm going to speak to because I heavily believe in that and I think that's important for your culture. So are you ready to hire? And do you have the capital investment to set aside to make this happen? But most importantly, you guys, it's those three things I talked about that have to happen first, which is marketing, really great marketing. Okay. Who's doing it? Are you doing it? Is it amazing? Is it more, on trend? That's a different conversation. I do have that recorded as well. And then also you've got to have a unique business concept with all these different protocols and working parts and good customer service. Do you have that? And then number three is going to be good financial acumen. There's my cat trying to join me. I'm sorry about that. Do you have a good financial sense in order to understand what's involved there so that you can be a great employer for someone else? Then have you done your research on the income generation possible per treatment room to understand what sort of investment you're making? I think a lot of business owners on the front end don't have a lot to invest. That is very real and that happens, right? So we understand that, but I'm going to show you on the next couple of slides the investments that it takes, but how that's going to be a reward that you're going to appreciate when it's all said and done if all of those things are in place, right? So it's going to make financial sense for you to make these hires if you understand the investment involved, having all the working parts there to make sure that you're reaping those rewards, and then everything will be completely okay. So I'm going to show you some real numbers in just a minute. And then the third thing is, who have you partnered with for your ongoing HR needs? Have you developed those relationships even when you're not looking? So this is a big one. We do a lot of community outreach and we have some phenomenal relationships with employers, and that's just what we do. We have an alumni director, Audra, who is fantastic, and she does a lot of reach out, and we have people that come to us always, but here's what it is. A lot of employers wait until they really need someone and they're more on the very desperation side. They need employees now. They need to make an immediate hire. Someone quit, someone left, or they've created a new position that needs to be filled very quickly as some sort of a support team item. So here's what you need to focus on. A lot of small business owners find it very hard to carve out that time, and I completely understand that. In fact, I understand that more than anybody, but you have to make that decision to say, okay, once a quarter or once a month or once every 6 months at the very least, you need to reach out to those people like us that can help you, that want to help, and just build out that relationship so that we know what you're looking for, what you might be looking for 6 months from now, and what you might be looking for next year. What is your growth pattern? How do you see your business a year, 2, 3+ years from now? What kind of hiring processes do you need to put into place? And only you know that, but no one can read your mind, right? So make those relationships and develop those moments to where it's going to be easier for you in the long run. It really is when you already have those processes in place to hire effectively. And this is a slide that I brought in from another presentation I've already done, but I really wanted to go into this one. This is not for medical spa. So I want to make this clear. If you see that number down at the bottom right, this is an investment that makes sense for esthetician treatment rooms in a spa setting. Okay. If you are in the medical spa setting, you know all too well, if you're a physician watching this or someone that's a practice manager, you know how much those lasers cost. If you're spending the dollars, you're going to spend between $50,000 and $250,000 for a very nice piece of medical equipment. So that's a different story. And I could still show you how to reap those rewards and get that revenue in there, and boost your bottom line with those big numbers too, of course. But make sure you understand from a salon and spa perspective, and then some sort of a baseline perspective, you can start very inexpensively. You can start on more the pricier end. It just depends on where you are. But I will say it's important to understand what people are learning today in aesthetics. And here we are in 2021. I think one of the biggest challenges with employers is they're not understanding what estheticians know now. And I can only speak for myself when I say this, but we teach more than what's required. And it's really for you. I mean, ultimately, it's better for the client, it's better for the business owner, but the business owner has to keep up, right? If you didn't go to school for this, you don't really know what's needed. So things like hydrodermabrasion machines, the Venus Glow or the hydrofacials, those are very popular nowadays, and it's a phenomenal investment. But you're going to spend $25,000, give or take, on a piece of equipment like that. But you can reap the revenue rewards over time. So, what is it worth to you? Are you willing to invest the dollars in order to reap those rewards? You have to make those decisions. And then things like, you'll see down here, microchanneling, radio frequency skin tightening. Those are some of the newer things that estheticians know how to do now. And are you prepared for that? I think sometimes the frustration might come in from providers. Well, just because I have a treatment table and I have a wax pot, that doesn't make it to where it's conducive for what my talents are. So when we're going to speak to the interview questions in a minute, we're going to really look at what your needs are, what kind of business you have, what your goals are, but how can you find an employee, an esthetician that aligns with those needs and doesn't expect too much or not enough, right? So we're going to talk about that. And that's where the relationship building and the pre-vetting can come into place that we can provide to you. Okay. This is good. This is good stuff. This is probably the biggest thing that I see. And the main reason I wanted to have this talk with you guys today is because I have people in my life, not only students and alumni who I take care of beyond their time with me in the classroom, but also people that have, I've just met in the industry, people that have been to my CEU courses, just people I happen to come across. And the biggest question is, what are we supposed to be paying these estheticians if you're a business owner? What is appropriate for salon and spa? But how do I make sure that I'm not overdoing it so I can still make money at the end of the day? I mean, if you're a business owner, it's about making money and making sure you invest and then make back your investment and then some. I mean, that's the point. Otherwise, why are you doing it? But the biggest thing is, I had one of my girls reach out to me the other day with this very complicated situation that she had spent time on with a practice manager at a medical spa setting, talking about, Courtney, what if I made this percentage on this laser service or this percentage on this microneedling service or whatever it was. And before I read the whole thing, I said, okay, stop. I said, first of all, that shouldn't even be a conversation, because the truth of the matter is, if you see here, is that in a medical setting, you cannot pay anybody commission whatsoever. All right. So I'm going to break that down for you, but that's called fee splitting, and that is an illegal practice. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute, but let's back up. Going back up to where it says estheticians in the salon and spa setting. This is one of my biggest pet peeves / should be something that makes sense overall, is anybody, we're all human. Do you want to go to work every day not knowing what you're going to bring home? No, the answer is no across the board. For someone to get up and take their car and drive their gas dollars and everything to come to your place of business and work for you, even just showing up and clocking in, they deserve something. Okay, so gone needs to be the day of commission only. All right, I've got some math equations coming up to where you'll see how that could be if that is just literally what you want to do. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you do commission only, you're going to have a lot of employee turnover because people need consistency. Do you want employee turnover? Do you want to be constantly hiring new people, or do you not? I mean, I think most times business owners are relatively smart folks. And, we know that spending time to train new people is wasteful if you don't have to. So let's look at the hourly plus commission. I'll give you some numbers in just a minute, but that is what needs to happen with estheticians in a salon and spa setting. The end. If you want to give them a salary, that's even better. It's even better. And we'll talk about at the bottom here where we talk about the good business practices of our bonuses and our wage increases annually. Let's get on estheticians in medical settings. So you see here that they need to make a salary. Otherwise, this is fee splitting, which is an illegal practice. So let's quit looking at aesthetics, cosmetics procedures that happen to be medical as somewhat of an inconvenience for us. Now, I am not a physician and I don't pretend to be a physician and I don't want to be. Okay. So here's what it is. If I were a physician, I would want to make sure that, number one, I'm hiring the correct individual with the right credentials and right education. So I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But I also want to do things legally. Also, physicians and medical practices, they don't have the time to sit there and calculate commissions anyways. I mean, you guys are dealing with patients and malpractice insurance and possibly medical billing and coding and different things like that. And insurance, you need to be able to make payroll easy enough to where it's a living wage for someone and also give them opportunities for growth and all. But, you've got to do things legally. And I think that's what's very misunderstood. So here in South Carolina, I can only speak for our state for a moment, but this is for most states, not all for sure. But in most states, cosmetic lasers and microneedling are considered the practice of medicine, those two things. But in the state of South Carolina, what's considered the practice of medicine is cosmetic lasers, microneedling, dermaplaning, medical peels, and micropigmentation, which includes the eyebrows, the eyeliner, the lip blushing, that kind of thing, micropigmentation. So those 5 things are considered medical. And I think we all need to understand, and here I am, I'm an aesthetics instructor and a school owner, and I have owned a medical spa before. I have been there, done that with several business ventures in, this industry. I have a product line now. I'm very well versed in aesthetics. I get it. We all want things to be what they aren't. And by just wishing, that medical services that we consider cosmetic services should be just this regular thing that people walk into and go do, and there's no repercussions of that, that's just wrong and it's not the case. We need to respect what it is, and what it is, it's considered the practice of medicine. The practice of medicine involves malpractice insurance, which is very expensive, and all these other things. But you also cannot take a commission on something that's considered to be the practice of medicine. It's not about selling that package of laser services. It's not about selling that package of microneedling services or anything like that. It's what the physician delegates should be the course of action for this patient. Okay. It's what the physician delegates to be the course of action for this patient. So while you as an esthetician might think that you have the knowledge base to make these calls, and sometimes you do, it's just not your call though. Legally it's not. And so you have to understand that that is considered kind of pushing something on someone that may or may not need it, because you're not allowed to make that call. The physician is. So fee splitting is an illegal practice. And if you're a medical spa, if you're a physician overseeing estheticians or even nurses, whoever you're overseeing performing these services, you guys, you cannot pay them commission. It needs to be a salaried wage. Okay. Then the third thing you see down here is good business practice. So let's talk about what this looks like. So for me, we do monthly evaluations for our employees, and all those monthly evaluations, I'm fixing to have some this week coming up. I do them over the course of 2 mornings, early morning times between 7:30 and 9 a.m. I put people on a 15 or 30-minute little time segment with me, but they have previously answered some questions for me. So I'll email this out at least a week or 2 after the previous month has gone by. I'll say, okay, it's July. We're going to go ahead and do our June monthly evaluations. Go ahead and answer these questions. Send them to me privately, the answers. And then we'll talk about it at our one-on-one. They sign off on it that they've done it. And then it goes in their HR folder. And then whenever we have their annual evaluations, which is a fun thing, make sure you have those scheduled every year. I'll always say that you should look at the national average, which you see here is an increase of 1.5%. 1.5% is kind of the national average as it stands today. That's easy enough, but you guys have to put that into place. You have to put that into place as a business owner. So some of the questions I ask at our monthly evaluations, and you don't have to do monthly. It does take up time, and you have to carve out that time to do it. And I don't mind it because I think it's great to do those check-ins, but you really need to at least do little quarterly evaluations in order to then be able to do a proper annual evaluation. But anyway, so some of the questions might be, well, what did you do for the company this past year? What did you accomplish in the past month? What did you overcome? That were some things that we kind of discussed last time. And then also, you might want to ask things like, what are your goals for the future? What are your long-term goals? What are your short-term goals? And then I always ask the question, what can I do better as the employer to make your life easier or happier, or something I'm just missing as your employer? Because these people are coming to your place of business every day. They're helping to facilitate your goals, and they love doing it, but they only love doing it if you take their thoughts into consideration as well. So these kind of meetings, while they seem, very, invasive in the midst of a busy work week, it is important to do it because it's about uplifting your team. So those annual wage increases are just straight up what needs to happen. In fact, add that into the job descriptions that you have when you're employing people and kind of recruiting. As you need to say, okay, we do monthly or quarterly evaluations where you come in and we ask you these questions ahead of time, you pre-answer them, and then we talk about it, right? And come up with some solutions or some, future goals and benchmarks. And then you can say, we also provide annual evaluations. And you don't have to say in words, in your contracts or your job descriptions that a wage increase is involved, but that is what is involved in an annual evaluation. And that gives people room for growth. So you can leave it like that, make your decisions on how you want to do it. And then annual bonuses, you might want to take a percentage off your bottom line, and you can make that, equation up for yourself, and you can definitely connect with me. I can give you some suggestions on that. But what we do within our company is we prorate them. So let's say that someone has a tenure with us of over a year or 2, 3+ years, they're going to have a very separate annual bonus than someone that might have been with us maybe for a month or two. So we'll give bonuses to everybody, right? But it's prorated based on the amount of time that you've been with us and how much tenure you have with the company. So those are some things to think about as well. So compensation is an important one. Think about how you can be competitive in the business world, but also know that you have to have a maximum budget as well, which is what I'm going to show you. So here's a financial forecast on a high end and low end for just an esthetician treatment room. Now, this is for salons and spas. I've got a medical spa one coming up here in a minute. This is a slide that I did in a previous lecture, so you might see that one as well on our YouTube channel, but I have a high end on the left and a low end forecast on the right. So what I come up with here, and you see the sample menus, is I'll come up with the ATP, the average ticket price, how many clients we're going to see per day, how many days a week we're going to work. Okay. Then you're going to multiply those out to find your weekly, monthly, and annual sales. All right. For that esthetician, this is for one provider. Then always remember, as a business owner, and I talk about this and some other things too, but you need to always be netting 30% margins per service always. And that's at a minimum. Hopefully you're doing more than that, right? But make sure it's at least 30%. I can definitely show you some ways in an Excel spreadsheet to actually kind of configure that, take a look at it on an annual basis, because things change. Your vendors increase pricing. You might find a vendor that has a better price point. Your dollars might change. So you need to have this as a very working Excel spreadsheet that you can take a look at pretty often throughout the year. But then when you figure out your margins, so that's for the company. And then number two, the percentage in overhead, because I'm going to reference that in just a minute as well on another slide. But overhead, then what's left? What's left out of that little pie is what you're able to pay your provider. So if you see here at the bottom, if your profit margin has to be 30% minimum, then you need to also be able to have overhead. So let's say that we're going to max out on compensation to the provider at 40%, then gosh, I really hope your overhead isn't, but only 10% per service. And that's very difficult. So that's not always going to be the case. It might be that you only have a budget of 20% per service to that provider based on your overhead. So that's where these low interest loans comes from, and making sure you pay cash when you can, and not having a bunch of equipment loans at all times, right? And that's a much bigger conversation, but you see where I'm going with that. Everybody's dollars are going to be different. And so I can give you some of these suggestions, but you see how you can take that and turn it into yours, and you can kind of figure out your compensation budget based on that. Then over here, this is taking that same data from the previous slide. So on the high end, we came up with an annual figure of around 324,000. On the low end, 91,200. Then I went ahead and configured this for you. If you have your annual sum on the left side divided by 52 weeks, you're going to get that $6,000 figure. Then you're going to multiply that to find your 40%. That's your maximum allowance for your weekly payroll budget at $2,492.31. And then off to the right, I did the same exact thing on a low end forecast. So forecasting is always important. An annual sum divided by 52 weeks, which is going to be the $1,700 figure. 40% of that is your payroll budget of $701.54. So I give you options at the bottom. Of course, my preference is the hourly plus commission route, and that is exactly what you need to do. Okay, so you can do hourly plus commission. You can do hourly and then increase that commission over a period of time, but you need to configure what is within your realm. If it's 40%, and that's what you have to budget for it, you're going to need to be able to fit your hourly plus commission in that little number. So those are the ways to figure that out, and I can help you with that more personally. Just ask me. Then I wanted to come up with one for a medical spa, because in the medical setting, we need to pay salaries. We also need to pay other individuals as well. I mean, you have customer care teams, you have insurance to pay for, you have equipment loans and all the stuff I'm taking out too, but you have got administrative people that you need to pay. So it's not just, what the service provider needs to make. And I think that's where everybody on all ends here needs to understand one another. So the actual providers, the employees, need to understand what business owners actually bring to the table and what they're doing and covering and spending money on. But then on the flip side, the employers need to also understand that they have to be competitive, and also make sure people have room for growth, some sort of a very set pay per week. So that's a given, that has to happen. But then how are you going to give someone something else to work for and something exciting, and those annual wage increases and the bonuses annually are a standard thing. So just keep that in mind, and you will always be a good employer to work for. You don't get into business to put in all this investment, and then ultimately, people don't want to work for your company, or you're not giving people a fair, wage or whatever. You don't want to be that. I know you don't. So let's look at this in a way that makes sense for recruitment. All right. So I gave you two treatment rooms. Treatment room A, I just came up with this. So in that treatment room, if you can envision, we're going to do micro needling, dermaplaning, medical peels. All of those are considered the practice of medicine, but hydrofacials are not, but very, very, it meshes well, right? With a medical spa setting, we do this a lot. So let's just say that your gross income for that treatment room per month, and I think that's important to kind of map out how your square footage is actually bringing in income. Let's just say that it's $10,000 a month on average. Treatment room B, let's say this is your laser room. We can do laser resurfacing, laser skin rejuvenation in there, laser hair removal. Our gross income per month on average is $20,000. So look at here, about midway to down closer to the bottom, I gave you a percentage in overhead. Now, I hope that your overhead is not that much money, but let's say that it is. So I wanted you to see what kind of annual revenue you could make. Now, I say that much in overhead too, because I do understand equipment loans extremely well, because when you're purchasing multiple devices, that just might be what you have to do until you pay it off. And as a school with multiple devices, and we just did a big renovation this year and we bought all new equipment, I know all too well what it takes for that. So your overhead might be a little higher until you pay it off, right? So that is what's going to happen. It might be the 40%, but look at the revenue you're still able to bring in from treatment room A at 72,000, treatment room B at 144,000. So you can see why this is a good investment to purchase the expensive equipment, to even go as far as to bring on an esthetician, to bring on the admin team, to have other people doing other things. You might have other treatment rooms that have, nurse injectors and things like that. But a salary range, and this is a nice sample, I would say this is very average nationwide, is 45,000 on the starting end to $65,000 annually plus benefits. So I would say that this is a good range, very fair range. And that is what it needs to be, because you can't do it any other way. No commission splits, but you've got to really stay on top of your salary employees and seeing, are we actually bringing in sales enough to cover that? And that's where your monthly, your quarterly, and your annual reviews come into play, right? So there's that. Then this is a big one. This is a big one. I want you to rethink how you're interviewing and what kind of questions you're asking, and also what you're providing to these individuals, because this can be a very serious marketing moment for your company. So look at the first one. Create a process for your company and assign 2 points of interview. So before it becomes an issue and you're just kind of scrounging to find someone in an instant moment because you're desperate, you need to have processes in place for hiring before it becomes that. We mentioned that earlier. But a part of this should be assigning 2 points to interview. So you could have interview number 1 with so-and-so and interview number 2 with another individual on your team. So for us, that is Erin. She's our chief admissions officer. She is phenomenal. She has a very huge background in hospitality management and sales and all this kind of stuff. So she's done her fair share of interviews over the years. So whether she interviews someone first and then we do second, or we interview someone and then she interviews them second, whichever way it is, there's a process. And then we are able to have several people ask some very different questions and get different viewpoints before we make the decision. Then the next thing is, we're going to look at the other two together. Experience matters sometimes. I'm going to go into that by saying this. Look at the next one. Look for education credentials and request transcripts of the number of services performed per category. Let me tell you, and I can only speak for myself as a school, but one thing in South Carolina that has never been required is a number of services performed. So when we're teaching the aesthetics program, the aesthetics licensure course is an accredited course, and then the Advanced Aesthetics Academy is an accredited course. I have benchmarks for students to meet. They have to do so many facials, so many hydrofacials, so many, body radio frequency skin tightening services, so many brow sculpts, so many airbrush tans, so many body waxing. They have to do that for the aesthetics program. Then on the Advanced Aesthetics Academy, which I think is even more so important, we actually require the student to do so many laser services, so many micro needling services, so many micropigmentation services, dermaplaning, medical peels, all of those things. And that is beautiful. So if I were a physician hiring in the medical spa setting, I would not want to hire an esthetician that had absolutely zero experience performing these services. So if you ask them, ask the esthetician, say, can you provide me with your labs that you've completed in school? Okay, that is actual experience working alongside physicians. And I'm only speaking for the experience at our school, Southeastern, but that is a big benchmark. That would show me, I mean, if I was if I was a physician hiring and I'm looking at the transcript of things performed and I see that Susie over here performed so many laser hair removal services working with a physician every single time, I would feel a lot more confident about hiring them based on, or in comparison to someone that didn't have that. So ask for proof documents on the number of services performed per category, and you're good to go. Another thing we do very well is client reviews. So we have an area on our website that we have our clinic leaders pull up for the spa services that we perform. So every single client coming in for the aesthetics program, they get to fill out a client review. And the client review rates the student from 1 to 5 stars. And of course, the students hope they always receive 5 stars, which they all do for the most part. There's always the onesie twosies where we have to say, okay, let's practice a little bit more over here or more over there, and you can get that back up to a 5. But then the clients also have to list out what they liked about the service, what they would change, any suggestions for the instructors, and whether or not they were recommended skincare products. So that's something to request too. If you're an employer in a spa setting, if you're an employer in the medical spa setting, and you're trying to recruit some good candidates, ask for any sort of proof on client reviews. We do that so much, and I personally forward all of those to our students. So they have them. So make sure you're asking for those client reviews, because if I were hiring someone and I saw a stack of 5-star reviews with actual commentary on it of why they got this 5-star review, I would hire them in an instant. And I would say, okay, perfect. You've gotten these 5-star reviews. Perfect. I want that in my company too. Let's do it. Let's start that. So those are 2 things that I see people do not do, but you should, is ask for proof documents on number of services performed per category, and then client reviews. That's everything. And then the final one, I'm gonna tell a story while I say it. I am going to speak to a medical spa here in the Columbia area, and I've had 2 of my alumni work there so far. And the one thing that was mentioned to me more recently is sanitation. And that makes me extremely sad, because that's what we stand for. Do you know that? The reason why we all have a license in aesthetics, or all have a license in the medical field at all, is because of sanitation. Literally, that is why you have a job. So my questions come up, and I have red flags when sanitation is not the first and foremost thing happening in any setting, but much less a medical spa where you're drawing blood and you have more blood spill and things of that sort. There's some requirements you have to have there. So here's number 1 for all business owners. This is what you need to have. All right. You need to have a contract in place with a janitorial service that comes in to clean your building, if not every single working day, then at least once a week. Do you hear me? You need to have a janitorial contract for someone to come and clean your business at least every working day. And if not every working day, it has to happen once a week. If you do not have that, you have no business being in business, because you have to have someone outside coming in and doing all this hard cleaning the baseboards, doing all the little things that actually really matter. And here we are in 2021. Post-COVID, everybody's still trying to figure out what to do with all this stuff. Who knows what's going to happen next, right? Sanitation is number 1. So show that. If you don't show these protocols that you have, then you're going to have a lot of questions, and people will not want to work there. I'm telling you right now, you need to show it. You need to bring it up, because no one's going to ask. You have to be the one to literally show it. Okay. Show that proof. So what I would do if I were you, I would say, okay, all right, you're interviewing for this position as an esthetician today. Fantastic. Here's your job description. Let's go over all those requirements and see what you think about our company. And, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. But before we get any further, I want to show you our sanitation protocols because that is number one. That is what we stand for. This is our janitorial service, and this is when they come and how often. And this is what they're responsible for. This is also what we are all responsible for. So, this is what I take care of as a business owner. This is what the practice manager does on sanitation every day. This is what the individual providers, the estheticians, the nurses, the physicians do every single day. These are what the front desk people do every single day. Does that make sense? So sanitation is literally the number one thing that you should bring up. The fact that I have alumni questioning sanitation of a place that they have gone to work baffles me and is probably the number one reason why I'm having this talk today. I can't take it. I can't stand it. That should never be the thing. If it's for anything else, I can understand it, but that is one thing that's an absolute no, 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 no. Okay. Then on top of showcasing that first, then you're going to say, okay, here's our HR protocol. So not only is this a copy of your job description, but I want you to know how we support you. So these are the things we do during the year. You're going to have a monthly or quarterly meeting. You make that choice between each other. It's going to be scheduled. These are the questions you're going to be asked. Then we're going to have an annual evaluation. This is what you can expect during your annual evaluation. This is what you can expect for growth within our company. And these are the things you can expect for education in our company. So one thing we do for our teachers is we do teacher in-service days. And I'm in the middle of lining up Elibana. We had Borboleta come recently, which wasn't a teacher in service. I actually had to specially do that one. And we all know how to do all these things, but it's good for refreshers and good to get new kind of updated certification. So we pay for it, we provide it, and it happens. And that's what our team can expect from us. What can they expect from you? Okay. You have to sell yourself to people as a business owner. What would make someone want to come work for you? And so in the interview process, it's not just about you interviewing them, it's really truly about them also interviewing you. Because I know how I teach our students, and they are expected to look for all these things like sanitation and proper HR, and y'all need to show it. Okay. Show it and you're good. Okay. All right. Then last but not least, how to post job openings with us, Southeastern Aesthetics Institute, and create a consistent partnership with our database. So this is just something that I love about, accredited schools overall, is that we have to help you guys or help our students with placement, which means developing these relationships with employers. It is one of my favorite things to do. I do a lot of consulting for business owners, other school owners, and things like that. And it's fun. I love developing those relationships. We also, like I said, Audra is Audra Haywisher. She's our alumni director, and she directly handles completion, licensure, and placement reporting. And so we have a binder with every single alumni, whether they were placed in a job or not, kind of what we do to help them and so on. So this is a big deal. So let's look at the first thing. I want you as the employers, right, to create meaningful relationships and connect with recruiters such as us on a quarterly basis. So you might think that, places like or companies like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, or even LinkedIn are good ways to connect with folks. And while they are, sometimes, especially on Indeed and ZipRecruiter and other things like Glassdoor, you might have to pay in order to post your jobs and to find those direct connections. We do this for y'all for free. It's just part of what we do as a school. And I just love that. So let me know how we can help you and create those meaningful relationships and those connections so that you find what you need before you even need it, right? Then create amazing job descriptions for every position within your company and update it regularly. That is one of my biggest suggestions, to go ahead and get that on paper every year, update it every year, talk about those things that we mentioned, not only sanitation and HR practices, but what's included in the job, make it compelling to read, right? And make sure to think through every little process and everything that this individual would be doing within your company. And it's already done. You don't want to be rushing to put something like that together, and then you're going to miss something. You don't want to be rushing to put those job descriptions together because you will miss something. And I think that is one thing to think about. And I completely understand. I mean, all the time business owners are putting out fires, but the last thing you want to do is be unprepared for something as important as bringing on an employee. So just make sure that's ahead of time, already prepared. Then the next one says, allow the experts to vet for you. So one thing that I love about what we do is we can help you, but only if you give us a little bit more information. And so we do post every job, and we post it for all of our alumni and all of our students. And it's a beautiful thing. And that helps so many employers. But one thing I would like for y'all to ask a little bit more in detail is, okay, I'm looking for, let's say, someone that's really good at lash extensions, right? Or someone that has performed so many laser services, or someone that's really good at micropigmentation. Or these are some of the character traits I'm looking for: organization, really good with time management, someone that takes initiative, right? So those are important factors. So if you have specific things in mind, definitely let us know, and we can help vet that out for you, give you a better pool of people to pull from, and then you're good. You're good to go. Another thing you'll see here is, of course, with our school, Southeastern Aesthetics Institute, we help create those connections for you. We have different networking events that are going to be happening this year. So get excited about that. That's exciting. And then our tribe page, SEI Tribe, is a private, very exclusive page on Facebook that's just for our student and alumni. No one else is allowed in there. And we post all these jobs, and students talk to each other, ask each other questions. Lots of good things happen in this group. And so we can definitely post things for you on a regular basis. Once we develop that relationship with you, we can post jobs as you need them. It might just be once here and there. We can post for you in that tribe page as often or as how little as you would like us to. Sometimes it's important just to make your business well known amongst all of these individuals as they're coming and going through the program. So it's good to get that regular, viewpoint seen to all of those members. And so we have a ton of students and a ton of alumni that really need to see your information. Definitely send it our way and we can post it for you for free. Then our contact information, feel free to text me anytime, day or night. If you're watching this and you know me very well, you know I go to bed early and I get up very early. So if I don't respond to you in the middle of the night, I'll probably respond to you at 4:30 in the morning when I wake up, drinking my coffee, getting ready for the day. So text me anytime, seriously. You can also call us directly. And like I said, Audra Haywisher is our alumni director. If I'm teaching during the day, definitely connect to her extension, which it will prompt you to do when you call the number 803-814-1772. And she will definitely talk you through some great things as well. She's got a great background with businesses and opening businesses and helping business owners. And so that's what we love about her role at Southeastern. And then you can email me anytime as well at info@seaestheticsinstitute.com. Definitely send us your job descriptions, send us your needs, whatever you need, whether it's text, call, or email, send it to us. We are happy to help. And that's what I love about Southeastern. But I truly hope this was helpful. Make sure you put those things into place, like proper wages for these employees, depending upon which kind of business you're operating in the beauty biz. Also, what kind of equipment you have, how much you're forecasting, right? Think about that. Think about those numbers that we went through. Also, think about those things that need to happen before you hire. So things like proper marketing, good business acumen, whether it's financial or otherwise. And then also, how unique is your business and how are you making it easy for your consumers to find you, to book appointments with you, or whatever it is that you're doing in the beauty industry. So make sure those are all good, and we can also help with that if you need it. One thing I love is to always help employers. So you guys are who hire my alumni. So I am very invested in your success. Let me know how to help, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Y'all have a good day. Bye.